When it comes to garden planning, it's relatively easy to decide what to grow. You know that you would like to have tomatoes, maybe some peppers and spinach and squash, and that's a great way to start. But how do you choose the specific varieties of tomatoes and peppers and spinach and squash? Well, join me today as I show you the process I follow to choose seed varieties. Hi, I'm Gardener Scott, and I have a lot of seeds. These are just some of what I have in my collection. And I've been accumulating seeds over many years because seeds can be used from one year to the next without worrying too much about the viability. Most of what I'm going to grow in my garden this year will come from my collection of seeds. Plants like shishito and Anaheim peppers. I want to grow them and I already have the seeds. Golden beets are going into my garden. And of course all the seeds that I've saved, like these black cherry tomatoes. But I'm always looking for something new, and especially for new gardeners who are just starting out, trying to figure out how to choose something like black cherry or shishito peppers can be a bit of a daunting task. I like to turn to the many seed catalogs I have. But before I start looking at the seed catalogs, I have some very specific plants in mind. I know this year that I'm looking for some that I've already started making a list of. John Jude suggested that I grow thornberry terracotta tomatoes. So as I look through my catalogs, I'll specifically be looking for that. A number of you have suggested Jimmy Nardello peppers. I'll be looking through the catalogs to try to find some Jimmy Nardello peppers. And Barry's Crazy Cherry Tomato is a variety that was recommended to me by Eli from In the Garden with Eli and Kate channel on YouTube. So this is a good way to start. If you can get recommendations from gardeners in your area, and even from those of us on YouTube, as you begin looking through the catalogs, or maybe even through the seed display at your local store, you have an idea of some varieties that have worked well for others, and then that can be an opportunity for you to start in your garden. There's also some other plants that I want to grow, and I'm just not sure about the variety that I want to try. I need to try to match the seeds that I find with my specific garden. So over the course of years, I know what my weather's like. I know how long my season is. And I have a pretty good idea of what's going to work in my garden. I just don't always know which variety to start growing in my garden. And that's where the seed catalogs come in. These catalogs offer thousands upon thousands of options to choose for your garden, much more than you would find in a seed display at a big box store. And by taking the time to look through the catalogs and read about the plants, you can learn more about what these offerings are. Before you begin trying to decide from thousands of plants which dozen or 24 plants you might grow in your garden, it's helpful to know some very important information about your garden, like how long your growing season is. What is the time from the last frost date in spring to the first frost date in fall? For me, that's about 134 days. And I like to give myself a 2-week buffer for unexpected weather on each side. So as I'm looking through my seed catalog, 120 days is my magic number. If I choose a seed that I like, but it tells me that it's going to take 120 days or more before I can reach a harvest, well, then it's probably not going to grow in my garden unless I take extra measures for that weather protection. You have to match your growing season with the plants that you're beginning to grow. And it's also helpful to have that plan in mind. Rather than just randomly choose seeds because they look pretty, try to choose something that you are looking for. To save money and save time and save effort, Put your list together of what you want to grow, the tomatoes, the peppers, the spinach, the squash, whatever it happens to be, and try to limit yourself to those type of seeds. And then of course, if you can have a list of very specific varieties, it makes the whole process that much easier. So let me show you what that looks like as I begin looking through this Seed Savers Exchange catalog. I'll take time to read the articles and the new information that they offer each year, but as I get to the plants, I am thinking specifically about what I want to grow. And when it comes to something like these poppies and these beans and most of the rest of these plants, they're not on my list of what I'm looking for. But I will stumble across something like this Maiden's Gold tomato that looks interesting to me. It's not on my list, it's not something I'm planning to grow, but I'll go ahead and read the description. And it says that I can expect to get fruit 60 to 75 days from transplant. Well, that fits very well with my 120-day expectation, so I've dog-eared the page. I'll come back to this when I try to make my final determination. The rest of these plants I have no interest in. I already have asparagus. I might come back to this page to find out more about it, but for now I'm just going through page by page trying to see if anything that this catalog offers is going to match my garden. And it doesn't need to take a lot of time, but when you get to the actual vegetables like beans, I'm not planning on buying any beans this year, so I'm bypassing this section completely. I have all the bean seeds I need already. When I get to this section on soybeans, well, I do want to grow some edamame this year. So I've circled this, dog-eared the page, and I'll continue looking through the catalog. Beets, I have all the beet seeds I need. So strolling right through to the lettuces, and the broccoli, and the collards, and the cabbage. None of these are part of my garden plan because I've already got the seeds and I don't need anything new. But if you don't already have the seeds, then take the time to look at the pictures and read the descriptions. Like on these carrot pages, there are purple carrots, and there are orange carrots, and yellow carrots, and short carrots, and long carrots. There's a lot to choose from. And so taking the time to read each of the individual descriptions can help you decide if that's a type of carrot you're looking for, if you're looking for carrots. I am interested in some cucumber seeds this year, so I'll slow down in this section and look at each of the individual pictures and descriptions. I'm looking for pickling cucumbers and bush cucumbers. And right up front, there's the A and C pickling cucumber, also known as ACE. As I start to scan through it, it has uniformly straight 10-inch fruits. Well, when I make my pickles, I like smaller fruits, so I'm not going to stop here. The Armenian cucumber is actually a melon, and I grew it last year. Wasn't real pleased, and I think I still have some seeds. Passing right by that. Not interested in different colored cucumbers, but here's one called Bushy. It produces bumper crops for fresh eating and pickling. And as a bush cucumber, it only takes up 2 to 3 square feet. I can expect fruit in 45 to 50 days. This sounds promising, so I'll circle that. I'll dog-ear the page and keep looking. Crystal apple, yeah, not too interested in. Double yield, looks like it could be promising. 4 to 5 inch long cucumbers, but nothing else about this really stands out. And so I'll keep going through the pictures to see if any of this I find interesting. The jelly melon is also known as a horned cucumber. As I look through it, this is one of those that sounds interesting, might be fun to grow in the garden, but it doesn't match what I'm looking for this year. So I'm avoiding the temptation of trying something new and sticking with what I'm looking for. And I'll keep doing this, going through every page in this book. I love looking at pictures. I love reading the descriptions, but when it comes to choosing specific varieties, this can be a pretty quick process because, like these eggplants, I've got plenty of eggplant seeds. I don't need to stop here. I don't need any more leek seeds. When I get to the lettuces, I'll slow down a little bit. I've got some lettuce seed. I've got them set aside, but there might be something about these pictures or the description that might sound interesting. And if that's the case, then I'll go ahead and circle it and dog ear it. This is not my final selection. This is just the process I use for candidates of what's going to grow in my garden, because I'm doing this with all the different catalogs. I'll probably grow one new bush variety and one new pickling variety of cucumber. After I go through all the catalogs, I'll look at the ones that I've highlighted, the bush varieties and the pickling varieties, and then narrow down my choice from there. Looking through the peppers, I already have all the hot pepper seeds that I'm planning on growing this year, but I'm looking for specific sweet peppers, and specifically within the sweet peppers, the Jimmy Nardellos. And right here, the Jimmy Nardellos are being offered by Seed Savers Exchange. So I've circled, I've dog-eared the page. It's really nice when you see something like this note that says staff favorite. This pepper is a good grower and producer, and the description matches. It is an 80 to 90 day pepper, which is a little bit longer than I prefer. And so even though I'm looking for Jimmy Nardellos, I'm planning on growing Jimmy Nardellos, I'll compare it with one like this Italia sweet pepper, which I can expect fruit 70 to 80 days. So this is where I'll consider maybe two peppers like this. It's tough. Do I choose the one that's 70 to 80 days or choose the one that's 80 to 90 days? Do I take a recommendation from the staff and a viewer and choose this one? Or do I look at this and decide that maybe these 5 to 7 inch long peppers are better suited for my garden? And even though I like to experiment, I like to try new things, and in most years the Italia might be one that I would choose, I'm going to go with what's recommended. I'm going to go with the pepper that others have told me do well in their garden. So this year, it's the Jimmy Nardellos. And there's no reason to spend any more time on the peppers. I found what I was looking for, and I can keep scrolling through to the other plants that I'm looking for. And when it comes to the squashes, I'm looking for some very specific winter squash this year. I grew some delicata squash last year and really liked it. So as I'm looking through the winter squash, I'm looking in the description for it to say that it's a delicata type of squash. So this honey boat is a gold, orange, green striped delicata that has irresistibly sweet, nutty flavor and stores well. I want a delicata. This sounds great as a delicata, so it's circled and it's dog-eared, and I don't see any other options as far as the specific delicata variety, and so the winter squashes are complete. As I come across the tomato section, I'm really only looking for those two specific tomatoes right now. The Thornberry Terracotta and Berry's Crazy Cherry. And so a lot of these tomatoes look wonderful, but this is my stack of tomato seed packets that I already have. So I really don't need to experiment with anything new. I'm just looking for those two, and I don't see them. So that means with all of these dozens and dozens of tomatoes that are being offered for Seed Savers Exchange, I'm going to have to go online to see if I can find those varieties. So, doing a quick search of Thornberry Terracotta Tomato, I find out it's actually Thorburns Terracotta Tomato. Rare Seeds, which is Baker Creek, offers it. True Love Seeds. It looks like there aren't a lot of companies that carry it. Here's San Diego Seed Company that carries it. I'll go ahead and make note that I can get it from Baker Creek, and I've been wanting to buy from San Diego Seed Company. So maybe that'll be a place to start. And then let's go ahead and see if we can find a place for Barry's Crazy Tomato. And it looks like I can also get those at rareseeds.com. That's Baker Creek. I'll scroll down and see some of the other offerings. And there's a few, but since I buy so much from Baker Creek, this may be where I choose to go to get these specific varieties. For now, since I know those 2 tomatoes that I was looking for are in the Baker Creek catalog, I can go ahead and start right at the front, go through the whole process, try to see if there's something that matches what's on my list. And what's interesting, if I go to the tomato section, is I don't find those 2 varieties. In the catalog, I don't find the Crazy Berries or the Thornburns Terracotta. So that goes to show that even though there are dozens and dozens and dozens of seeds to choose from in these catalogs, it doesn't include everything. So if there's a company that you really like to do business with, but you can't find the seeds in their catalog, don't hesitate to go online, because you may be able to find what you're looking for with just a simple search. I know that this looks like it can be challenging, and I will spend a day or 2 on this process, but that's because I have a big garden and I'm looking to plant a lot of different plants. I love the catalogs. That's why I have a lot of catalogs. But if you're new to gardening, or if you have a small space, you don't need to do all of this. Maybe just start with a single catalog like Botanical Interests and go into it to choose those few seeds that you want. It helps to start with the general idea. If you want to grow tomatoes, it helps to know whether you want to grow the big slicing tomatoes or the small cherry tomatoes, so that when you get to the tomato section, you can speed up the process a little bit. If you don't have that initial idea, you can just enjoy the pictures and choose the ones that look and sound best. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is find the varieties that will do best in our respective gardens. Even though I have all of these seeds, not all of them have done well in my garden. I save the packets mostly as a reminder of what not to buy in the future, and occasionally as a reminder of what to buy in the future, like the shishito or like the black cherry that I saved the tomato seeds from. If you want to learn more about saving and collecting seeds and what will do best in your garden, go ahead and watch one of these videos next. I'm Gardener Scott. Enjoy gardening.